over the offseason, I had a lot of people asking if Dave's net positivity corner was going to make an appearance this year. And we started that in 2020 because we just couldn't go through that direct season without ending on a positive note. At least in the first game of Nick Sirianni's era, we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, the positivity corner was an answer not just to losses, but to a team that was just lifeless and lost. And it just kind of gave us something. I mean, by the end of the year, we were like, well, Graylin Arnold had a nice tackle. It was pretty bad, but we certainly think the entire show is going to be a positivity corner today.
This is the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. The Eagles start off their season with a convincing 32-6 win over Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It's going to be tough to find much to fault with this game. I mean, the Eagles, it was about as complete a win as we've seen from this team in years.
Yeah, I guess the return game, we can kind of focus on that if you really want to be negative. But, yeah, it was a really impressive way to start the Nick Sirianni era. And a lot of the things that we've seen in training camp, and I've been trying to tell people, we saw in the game. And we saw a team that was prepared, that was physical. I think any concerns about training camp and the nature of the short practices, the absence of hitting and live drills, we saw right from, look, the first couple drives were a little sloppy defensively. I don't know if that was
missed tackles in there. Yeah.
Some missed tackles. Yeah. But I don't think it was really, I don't think it had anything to do with training camp. I think they were just kind of either too amped. They just weren't ready. But they certainly, after those first two drives, defensively, they just got better and better as the game went on. I saw a team that was confident, that believed in its coaches, that really wanted to make a statement that, last year this is a different team. And we've seen it all along, and we have the luxury of being out there every day. It's been a very positive, very, this team really put last year to rest, I think. And there's no vestiges of it. And I think you see what a team can do when there's, and, I don't want to put down Doug. I mean, that's the guy won a Super Bowl, but you see what happens when, with good play calling, with a team that's prepared, with creativity, and with more talent. Let's be honest, with more talent as well. And it was impressive on both sides of the football for a young team with a new opening day quarterback. And Jalen played some games at the end of last year, but this is his team now. It's a different situation. So many young players. A new defensive coordinator that's never been in that position, a new head coach that's never been in that position. For them to put it together like this, and it wasn't pretty at first. The red zone defense kind of kept them in the game there for the first couple of series, but by the middle of the second quarter on, they just dominated every phase of this football game. And they were getting gashed on the ground early. They cleaned that up. Penalties, we could talk about penalties, but other than that, this was just to go down on the road. I know the Falcons are not a great team. Neither were the Eagles. Go down on the road, beat a Hall of Fame quarterback, and really shut him down. Nothing down the field, digging and dunking, and really didn't do much of anything after the first couple drives. To win a game by 32-6 on the road that's really, really good stuff. Very auspicious debut for this staff and this team.
Yeah, and some people are going to say the Falcons stink, but even if they do, they had the same amount of wins as the Eagles did last year. So if you're looking at the rebuilds and how they're going, right, the Eagles at least seem ahead in that respect. And they looked the way they looked all training camp, but we just didn't know. You're watching all these, there's so much newness that even though I think we're both impressed by what we saw from Sirianni and Jonathan Gannon during training camp. But until they get out here in week one, there's still that air of uncertainty about it. And I was super impressed, obviously, on Sunday. And you're right. If that red zone defense doesn't hold, this might have been a very different game. If there's 2 touchdowns in the beginning of this game for the Falcons, it's a different ballgame. But they didn't score. And you give credit there. And eventually that Eagles defensive line just wore them down. And the offense was clicking. And they were scheming guys open. And I don't want to rail on Doug either, but when's the last time we saw this offense scheme guys open as much as we saw on Sunday? Even the Devontae Smith touchdown, a little pick play, a natural pick. They didn't get called for because it wasn't a penalty, but just little things like that. The screen game was back and better than ever. There was so much about what we saw on Sunday that makes you feel really good if you're an Eagles fan. And we'll see. The tough part of their schedule is coming, and we don't want to crown them champions. It's a long way to go here, but definitely pleasantly surprised, honestly, by how efficient they were. I thought they'd be a better team, and we all picked them to win this game, but I didn't think they'd do it this convincingly.
Yeah, that's true. And obviously a lot of the Falcons' issues were they brought on themselves the penalties, the drops. They really did not play well. He did not look prepared. But yeah, it was loud in there to go down to any stadium on the road and win by 26 points. It's only the third road game the Eagles have won by 26 points in the last decade. And one was in 17 in the Super Bowl season. One was the next year. So even great teams don't go down and win games like that. And I just love how they put them away. They really had a killer instinct, and they, especially the D line, like you said. I thought Matt Ryan did a good job early, getting rid of the ball quick. They ran the ball better than they should have early. I think a lot of it was, I don't even think it was adjusting that from Gannon. I think the Eagles just calmed down defensively. I thought they just kind of settled down. Let's, just do your job. Don't try to be great. Just do your job. And I thought that's what really shut down the running game. They swarmed to the ball. Falcons had, I think, 11 rushing yards after those first 3 drives, the rest of the game. So once Matt Ryan had to throw all the time when the running game dried up, really played into the hands of Hargrave, Ridgeway, Fletcher, BG. Barnett made a couple plays. I mean, the D-line just feasted. I mean, I felt bad for that 77, man. That kid, Mayfield, I think his name is, man. He had a really, I mean, he was just getting destroyed there by the
first career start.
Yeah.
And a guy who was getting passed up by Josh Andrews a couple weeks ago.
Our old friend Josh Andrews.
That was their idea to shore up their line was to bring in Josh Andrews, and now they have a rookie starting there. But yeah, I was impressed by the way the D-line wore them down. And overall, yeah, I mean, a really impressive game. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts a little bit. I thought he made a few mistakes early. And this is a weird thing with Jalen Hurts because it's funny. I feel like half of Eagles fans think I hate Jalen Hurts, and the other half think that I'm putting him in the Hall of Fame. And it's just, look, we're going to call out when we see him make some mistakes. And I thought there were some. Like on that 4th down play, I thought he left the clean pocket for no reason. On the Zach Ertz throw down the field, I thought it was underthrown. But after those 2 mistakes,
he didn't catch it either, by the way.
Did it hit? It looked like it might have hit the ground. And Zach knew it too. I think he was trying to get them to run the next play. But after those 2 mistakes, man, Jalen Hurts was really good. And he made some really impressive plays. That touchdown throw to Dallas Goedert, you're not going to find many throws better than that.
Yeah, across his body, going the other way. And time was running out. I mean, he had 9 seconds when that play started. So, and he talked about it after the game. I mean, you can't run around and scramble there, or you could end up with nothing. I mean, you want to get at least 3. So I think he might have thrown the ball before he normally would have, just to make sure they left enough time on the clock.
And they had 2 seconds left if they needed another play.
Yeah. Incredible play by Goddard. But what I liked most about Hurts was he didn't force anything down the field. He took what they gave him. And, last year we saw a guy who hit a lot of big plays, but also made a lot of mistakes trying to hit big plays. Now, some of that was just because they were losing all the time because they sucked. But a lot of it was just, I think his nature is just to go down the field. But I thought this offense is predicated on short throws, high percentage throws. Talked about this, and that's what they did. And once they got up, there was no reason to take shots down the field. I wanted to see him. I want to see Quez run a go route and 60-yarder, but there wasn't it didn't make sense. They just and a 2-minute drill to run a 2-minute drill with 1:44 left and not hit any big plays and go 12 plays in a minute 44. I mean, that's not easy to do. It's very efficient. I just didn't see. I thought he saw the field really well. I thought he saw the field well. I thought he ran at the right times.
That's the big key for me, is that he knew when to scramble when he had to do it.
Yeah.
He didn't force it. I think he had 24 yards on the ground on that drive because getting back to the earlier play, I thought he left the pocket too early. I thought he found that balance really well in that 2-minute drill.
Yeah, and this is a kid who has not played a lot of football. I mean, he's played 3 full games before today, start to finish. Played half in Green Bay and then a half against Washington, but he's played 3 games in his life. This is his 4th career game that he played the whole game. And he, completed 75. Maybe we can finally put to rest that, that whole accuracy thing. And I wrote about this like 1,000 times during the offseason. Give him better receivers, a better offensive line, better play calling. And he's not going to complete 52%. I thought he'd be closer to 65. So he was 77.
Yeah, but I also want to point out that I don't think it's just like the factors around him got better, so he got better. I think he put the work in.
Fair.
You know what I mean? I think there were issues with his accuracy, and he put that work in to get better. So I agree with you that the factors around him improved, but I think he's an improved player too. And I think a lot of that was him and the team understanding that there was a flaw in his game and they wanted to correct it.
Totally true. And I would agree with that. But I saw a guy who was in command, had great poise, and just commanded the huddle, ran the play clock down a little too far for my liking. A couple of times I think there was one delay game, but just
up in a loud stadium, they were using the silent count.
Yeah,
he's clapping for the ball, and it didn't work.
Just to put his performance in perspective, 75% completion, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. The only quarterbacks in Eagles history who've had one game like that are Randall had 2, Donovan had 3, but none until his 7th season, and then Nick Foles had a couple. And then if you add the 60 rushing yards, only 2 other players in NFL history have had those passing numbers plus 60 yards. That's Kyler Murray and Earl Morrall, like back in the 60s, did it. Thank you, Stathead, for that. So it was a typical Jalen Hurts game, but what he's able to do throwing it and running it, and I thought he really sold the fake.
I call it a typical Earl Morrall. Earl Morrall? It's hard to say. Earl Morrall.
A-L-L.
It all kind of runs together. Earl Morrall.
Quarterback, yeah. Yeah, it was a good quote, Dave. I know you're going to ask me. It was just so impressive. So he's just so calm. He's just, there's no, even on the 2-minute drill, there's no, he never looks like he's in a hurry. He never looks like he's rushed. He never looks like he's out of control or out of sorts or, there's none of this. He's just, he's such a confident, in control, poised kid. And we saw it. We saw it today.
Yeah, and we see the difference when there's an offense designed for him. And he didn't. He pretended like he didn't understand a question about that.
He goes, I don't understand the question, but I'm going to give you an answer.
Yeah, he understood the question because last year he was in an offense that was not designed for him, and it showed. I mean, you're not going to get me. I think he played the whole game though, which is something we have to track.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought, there were a lot of RPOs in this game, a lot of read plays for Jalen Hurts, and that makes a ton of sense because of the threat of his legs. And there was the one keeper that he had on one of those. It got me. It got me when he busted around the right side of the line. And it makes a ton of sense that this is what the offense looked like. And I think it makes a huge difference for a player like this.
Yeah, there's no question. There were a couple I couldn't follow. I didn't know where the ball was, and if it's hard for us, it's definitely hard for the defense. So
yeah, when you're on the ground, I mean,
yeah. It was an auspicious debut for this offense, and we'll get to other stuff. I know this isn't. I was going to go off the script real quick because this kind of has to do with Jalen, but his command, like when things are going bad, his calmness, I think he saw from everybody too. There was a point, I think, when the Falcons had like a 2nd and goal on the 3 or on the 2, and they showed Gannon on TV, and he's just like looked as calm as could be. This is his first game of his life as a defensive coordinator, and he just showed him looking at the card and getting the play in. And there was, I thought, a lot of maturity on the part of the whole team, especially when things weren't going great early on in the first quarter, especially defensively. There was just a calmness, and that comes from the head coach. It comes directly from the head coach. It's something he's preached all year. Just if there's a bad play, put it out of your mind, focus on the next one, and get the job done. And we saw it from everyone, but when you see it from the quarterback, it's definitely a valuable thing.
Yeah, the other guys are going to follow it.
No doubt. Hey, score big with the Eagles AAA MVP membership, along with superb roadside assistance and discounts that you've come to expect from AAA over the years. Get exclusive Eagles-related perks. For all the details, go to AAA.com/Eagles.
So we know about Devontae Smith's touchdown, but all the touchdowns by young guys, I guess there's not much of an option. I know the old guys at the skill positions are
Goddard was the old man of the group.
He was the old man catching one. Yeah, but to see Devontae get one, Jalen Reagor get one, and Kenny Gainwell, he got two, but only one counted. It's exciting. It's exciting to have young, talented, skill position players on this team. It's been a long time.
Yeah, the last time three 22-year-olds scored a touchdown in a game for the Eagles was 2009 against the Giants, and there were three guys our listeners might have heard of: LaShawn, Deshaun, and Macklin. And that was 12 years ago. And there haven't been a lot.
Did you say LeSean or Deshaun?
Both. And Macklin. And I don't know if this group is going to make the impact that group did, but and again, I think Howie Roseman deserves some credit because there's some young players on this team that can play, and he's taken a lot of criticism, and I would say a lot of it, most of it, has been warranted. But when he drafts good players, we have to be able to say that he drafted good players, and this team's got more young talent than it's had in a while. It had. You see Kyle Pitts on the other sideline and made no impact. What do you have? 3 for 18 or 3 for, something like that. Reagor gets in the end zone. Gainwell had a good role. Ran the ball well, caught a couple passes, and you see what Devontae did. I mean, goodness gracious me! I mean, the kid is a flat out stud. I mean, we didn't see a ton of him because he was hurt in the preseason, but when we did see him, just smooth, in control. He's just like he's like a ballet dude out there. He's so smooth, and he's just so, smooth. He's so smooth is what I'm trying to say. But he's fun to watch.
Yeah. And even like he had a 2-yard catch that was one of my favorite catches of the night because he was able to tap both feet in on the sideline for a guy at the next level where he didn't have to do that a year ago.
Right.
Yeah, he got that so naturally to him.
I wasn't sure he had that left foot down, and he did. And it was, but I mean, just the touchdown, just all the catches. He's so reliable and so. I just think, God, what did he finish? I don't know what he finished with 71.
I have it in front of me. He had 6 for 71 and a touchdown.
6 for 71. So 6 catches ties the franchise record for a player in his first game that Deshaun set in 2008. 71 is the second most yards ever by an Eagle in his first game. Deshaun had like 108 against Washington, that opener in 2008. This franchise has been so desperate for a Devontae Smith for so long, just a young stud to grow with. And he's going to get better, but he's already really, really good and just so much fun to watch. And they have such a chemistry. They have such a chemistry together. They just seem to know where each other is, and they have that connection. I think when we did our predictions for the year, did we guess Devontae Smith yards? I think we did. I think we both had him over 1,000. And it's not even about the numbers because they spread the ball out so much. But I can't wait till the 49ers game to watch Hurts throw the ball to Devontae again. It's something else.
And it was nice at the end of the game to see Jalen Reagor get a touchdown because, honestly, in a weird way, that touchdown could end up being more important to the Eagles season than the Devontae Smith one because you have a guy who struggled as a rookie. So for him to come out and get a touchdown in the first game, and I know it was kind of garbage time at the end, but if that helps his confidence, if that boosts it just a little bit, then that's going to be a big play. And that was good to see because he didn't even start this game. They had J-Jaw out there to start this game. So you're wondering, like, what's he thinking right now? Like, I'm not even on he didn't play a lot in the beginning of the game. It took him a while to get out there.
Yeah. Ended up with 6 for 49 with the touchdown, 23 yards. And it was, it was good to see. I think there's not going to be a lot of guys getting 100 yards in receiving yards this year, just because I think they're going to be really balanced. And so much of Nick's offense is just matchups. And, somebody asked about Quez, were you trying to get Quez the ball early? No, there was a matchup we liked, so we just kept throwing him the ball. So, I like the Rager I saw today. I know the numbers. I think he probably had more yards than last year's opener. I think he had a 55-yard catch. But I like his game more, a lot more where he is now. I'd rather take 6 for 49 and a 23-yard touchdown than one 55-yard catch.
Yeah, and we talk about this offense playing to Jalen Hurts' strengths. They play to Jalen Rager's strengths too.
Yeah.
The ability to get the ball in his hands near the line of scrimmage could really help him. It could help Quez too.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that's fair.
I think Kenny Gainwell, by the way, getting in there on the 2-minute drill, that's his role. I mean, that's going to eat into Miles Sanders' snaps. That tells you what they think about Kenny Gainwell in those situations because most likely of his hands.
Although Miles caught the ball well today, which was encouraging. It was really encouraging. He caught the ball as well as we've seen him catch it. And he had a couple of nice plays. He had that one 25-yard catch and run where Kelsey blocked like 9 guys on that play. He was just going around killing people. But yeah, I mean, when you look at, mainly on offense, but there's some young guys on defense too. But to have Miles, who ended up with 74, he was probably over 100 total yards, I think. Well, he was probably 110, 115 net yards to have Quez and Miles and Rager and Devontae and Gainwell, all 22, 23. Miles went 24. And they have that whole group has such a great chemistry with Hurts on the field and off the field. They look up to him, they admire him. And he's like a folk hero too. He's like a legend to them, or what he did in college. And I don't think that's not the case with the older guys like Goddard and Hurts. They're really the only older guys, but it really is a very, very close group on the field and off the field. And it's going to be fun to watch that whole group grow.
Yeah, you mentioned Kelsey. I just want to mention it. It's not really on our script, but when we're talking about all these skill guys, it works because the offensive line is healthy and playing at a high level. To watch what they did, you're seeing it. If that group stays healthy, then this offense can be pretty good. And it really, to me, it all hinges on that. If they don't have time, then this isn't going this way. Yeah.
Kelsey, who there was a point after the coaching change where we really wondered if he'd ever play again. It was like, is he going to want to come back, start over, new coach? He played as well as I've ever seen him play today. He's 33. I saw a guy who was fresh and fast and athletic and powerful and using his leverage and just doing all the things that he did in his prime. I thought he was bad last year. He wasn't, but I just saw a guy who, he's not banged up. It's early. It was a training camp that the older guy didn't wear down the older guys, didn't wear down anybody. Wore down me a little bit by the last few days by the Jets joint practices. A little worn down, but Kelsey and really Lane had a couple penalties. Mailata had a couple penalties. Everybody had penalties, but Mailata. I thought Mailata and Kelsey were just beasts out there today.
Yeah, Mailata might have killed a guy on that touchdown. That's a scary sight, seeing that man, 370, 80 pounds, whatever he is, running full speed at you. And we'll talk about him in a little bit, the left tackle of the future. But, yeah, impressive performance by the offensive line and the defensive line, which is what we kind of came into the season saying, that they're going to have a chance to be a decent team as long as those strengths remain their strengths, and we saw it today.
Yeah, D line. It took them a while to get going. Um, they didn't really get a lot of pressure early. They got gashed on the ground. It was a little concerning. I was starting to think this D-line is getting old or overrated. I don't know, starting to think, they got to get going here.
I thought Fletcher looked really slow off the ball early.
He did, didn't he?
Yeah.
I thought so too. He came out on a couple of key situations. I don't know if he was gassed, but they started to get some 3 and outs, and they were off the field. They didn't have to play a lot in the second half. Time of possession really flipped in the second half, and it looked like the D-line really got a second win as a group. When a quarterback has to throw every snap, and he's got 77 out there blocking, and really the whole interior, I thought the 3, their center's okay, but the 2 guards really struggled. The whole interior of that O-line was, as the game went on, they got worn down, and the Eagles D-line just got stronger and stronger. And they were just dominating by the end of the game. The Falcons couldn't do anything. It's really fun to watch any D-line get stronger as the game goes on. And, it says a lot about their conditioning. And again, it speaks volumes for Nick's whole offseason plan. They by the fourth quarter, they were the stronger team. They were the fitter team. They were the better conditioned team. And they were the team making all the plays.
Yeah. And we saw Jonathan Gannon mix up what he does a little bit in this game. I was just almost just as curious about that as I was about Sirianni's offense. So we saw some 3-man fronts. We saw obviously the 4-man front. Early on, the tackling left a little bit desired. I thought their linebacker play wasn't great early. I thought they missed some plays, but they didn't give up touchdowns on those drives. And that's really all that matters. It felt like with the bend don't break stuff, we're talking about Jim Schwartz's defense, but it looked, obviously they got there a different way, but keep them out of the end zone and keep them out of the end zone.
Yeah, and it seemed like those 2 goal line stands really gave the defense confidence. Mm-hmm. Really flipped the game. I thought the coverage was really good in the second half. Ridley, I know he might have finished with 45, 50 yards, but wasn't really a factor, and Pitts wasn't a factor. Avonte Maddox is so much better in the slot than outside, and they lost Epps early with a concussion, really early, and it left them really undermanned. Makes you wonder about Andrew Adams, but that's another story. But I don't really understand why he's not on the team. But the secondary was really playing well by the end of the game. I thought coverage was good. Tackling, they just tackled so much better after the first couple series. To me, that was the biggest difference. I just didn't think they were disciplined early in their tackling. They were overrunning stuff. They might have been too hyped up, but they got it together.
Yeah, they did, and they needed to. So we'll see if they can carry it into next week.
Was there anybody that stood out to you on defensively?
I mean, Javon Hargrave, who, we talked about him all training camp, and it carried over in this game. He had 2 sacks, but even aside from the sacks, he was getting pressure. Brandon Graham had 1 great pass rush. I mean, he was so quick. Even Barnett, you mentioned, I thought he had a good game. He got the start, which was probably an unpopular thing for a lot of fans after the training camp Josh Sweat had, but I thought Barnett played well. Even Hassan Ridgeway played decent.
Yeah, a week and a half after getting cut and getting re-signed. I think he had a sack. We spent the whole offseason talking about getting rid of him, and he again, whoever was over 77 made plays, but they made them. Doesn't matter. You make them. Ridgeway played well. Hey, at Nissan, we just made your choice for a new car an easier one than ever. With our most exciting and fuel-efficient lineup, the choice is all yours. Now get great offers across our full line. Shop your local Nissan store today at nissanusa.com.
Reuben, I want to talk a little bit more about Sirianni because I was impressed by his play calling, by the way he got into a rhythm calling this game, and just by the different formations we saw. We saw 11, 12, 13, and 21 personnel all utilized in this game. Yeah,
it was kind of like a 2017 Doug Peterson approach. I think we saw a little bit of everything, a lot of combinations. it was fun. People ask me, I kept saying he's going to be a good play caller. And people are like, how do you know? Like, I just really feel like he will be. He's a creative guy. He's an inventive guy. He's been around good coaches. I like it. I like when he talks offense. He seems to really focus on keeping teams off balance and being unpredictable, using different combinations. All that stuff he did today, and it worked. You never quite knew who was going to be out there. He's kind of hamstrung with trying to get Ertz and Goddard snaps and without playing much 12. I don't think they played a whole lot. I don't think Ertz played a whole lot. He was hurt there for a minute, but I really liked his play call. I thought he got away from the run a little too much early. I thought that the ratio at one point was like 18 passes to 5 runs. And I thought that Miles was like 4 for 23 in the first half. And I just thought a little more Miles, run clock, try to get the offense settled down. I understand he wanted to get Jalen in a rhythm, and he did. And it's hard to really – I'm being nitpicky, but I just think it seemed like Miles was a really tough matchup. They just couldn't stop him. And you saw in the second half he was more of a factor, and he got going and made some big plays, had one big loss that messed up his numbers a little bit. But other than that, yeah, it was creative. It was different. It was surprising. I think he had the Falcons on their heels. They didn't know it was coming. They didn't know where people were going to line up. Jack Stoll was out there in 3 tights, and he used all his personnel. Didn't see a lot of Boston Scott.
I didn't see him.
I don't know if he even played other than special teams.
I didn't see him on offense.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him on offense. It was a little surprising, but knowing him, Boston will get like 8 touches against the Niners. Yeah, I think that's what he's all about. He's all about what can we do to keep that defense on their heels, guessing, not knowing what they're going to see from snap to snap, and he did that. He did that today. Yeah.
Did you hear the question I asked Sirianni about how much is there still that we haven't seen? And he kind of smiled and said, "It's only game 1. There's a lot," and that's good to know, because if that's true, then he still has that element of surprise in his pocket. It's not like he showed everything in this game and now teams can scheme against it, because now the idea is they scheme against what they saw in this game, and he has other tricks up his sleeve. So he's going to try to use the unknown to his advantage as long as he possibly can.
Yeah, and I think that'll be as long as he's coaching. Honestly, I just think that's his nature. One of the first things he told us, I think, in his first press conference was, "I don't have a scheme. I don't have a philosophy. My philosophy."
Well, that was Gannon, but that was same sentiment from Syria.
Yeah, you're right. But yeah, I mean, I think they both share that philosophy of, my scheme is whatever I need to do to beat you, and whatever I need to do to make plays, and we saw that. But yeah, I think it's going to be different week to week, and it was just really refreshing to see this brand of football after last year. Last year was just so miserable, and it's been a long time since it was fun to watch this team. Today was fun.
It was fun. All right, Dave's negative now. But how about there were a few things they need to clean up. Obviously, the penalties, too many in this game.
12.
Yeah, not that they got lucky with those, but if you're in a closer game and you have 12 penalties, it can hurt you a lot more.
Falcons had 14. I think the Falcons were probably more damaging.
Yeah. 2 offensive pass interferences. It's some weird penalties. We saw 2 almost back-to-back offensive pass interferences on the Falcons. We saw defensive holding on the lineman twice. Some weird stuff. I thought, fine calls, just weird.
Yeah, sometimes the league has emphasis on new emphasis on old rules, and we might have seen some of that. I thought the 2 offensive pass interferences, one of them negated an 18-yard gain by Pitts. They were both good calls, and they were both unnecessary. They both just didn't make sense. I mean, just why?
Well, the one was a pick by Ridley.
Yeah, it was just.
Yeah,
but they're not a disciplined team. But for the Eagles, they've got to clean that stuff up. There was some false starts. I think the O-line had 4 or 5 penalties.
Yeah, Lane Johnson was called for that illegal man downfield and negated the Kenny Gainwell touchdown.
Right.
They were lucky to score on that, but
yeah,
could have been a big swing.
He also had a hold Lane did. So, yeah, it's stuff you have to keep an eye on. But as far as things to fix, I don't know. I mean, I would have said at halftime, I would have said the rushing defense, let me see, where's the halftime stats here? Bear with me. 19 for 110 in the first half rushing. 19 for 110. And the final numbers are 26 for 124. So there were 7 for 14 in the second half rushing. So, I mean, that's.
And it's complementary football. Your offense scores and gives you a lead, and then their offense feels like they have to get away from the run a little bit more. You can pin your ears back and get them. Complementary football was something that this team just didn't do last season. It always felt like, if the offense started to click, the defense would give up scores and vice versa. So to see that, and special teams were great too. I don't want to leave out special teams. This punter kicked 3 inside the 10-yard line, downed all 3 inside the 20.
And not only he only punted 4 times, the fourth one wasn't bad, but those 3 were the first 3 punts of his career. I mean, this was his first NFL game. There's another guy playing his first game, and his first 3 punts went into the same corner. I think Zach McPherson downed the first one and the third one. Mm-hmm. I think one at the 7 and one at the 8. And the other one he hit to the 7. It was returned, but only out to the 13 or 14. So, I mean, his net was 44.5 with 3 inside the 20, and he averaged 47.3. I mean, this is – I'll tell you what, you get rid of Cameron Johnson. I thought it was really good, and they get some guy who's never played before, and he punts the ball like that. I mean, and that had a lot to do with – I mean, again, field position was an issue for this team last year. They never had good field position, and it's hard to win like that. They pinned the Falcons back the whole second half. The whole second half, they were starting drives, either going for it on 4th down or from good punts. They were starting drives on the 6 to 8 to 10 to 12, and when you only have like 140 yards in the whole game, you're not going to go 90 yards for a touchdown. Yeah. That's that complementary football. I thought the punt return game wasn't great. Rager didn't really have anywhere to go. He
made some interesting decisions too.
Yeah, he's got to hit it forward. And
he caught the ball though, and that's actually. And I'm glad you brought it up because he was out there fielding punts in areas where last year they would have given to Greg Ward, which tells you they feel at least confident in his ability to catch those balls. He was down there at the 10-yard line for one. Last year, they don't let him on the field for that.
No, that's true. But I do think he's got to go forward. I mean, you're not going to outrun people going back to going back 6 yards and trying to turn the corner. It's just they're too fast and they're covering too well. So, I'd rather just get catch the ball and get a couple yards if you can, get more if you can. But those backwards returns, I'm not crazy about.
Yeah, that's fair. Before we finish this pod, I want to talk about Jordan Mailata, as Miles Sanders called him, the money man. Gets to that big extension. I thought he played well in his first game since that extension, but he's the left tackle of the future. Eagles lock him up to a 4-year extension. Were you surprised at all? It seems like to me this was a really good deal for both sides.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I got a lot of people tweeting, how can you give that kind of money to a guy who's started 10 games in his career? He's going to be a free agent. And, you look at the way he played today. If they hadn't signed him, his price is going up. It's going up. The longer he plays like that, the more money he's gonna want when he hits free agency, if it gets to that point. So if you're the Eagles,
do you guys remember how much Big V got paid a couple years ago?
Yeah, Big V got $50 million. So you look at Mailata and you look at what he did last year and the progress he made over the offseason, the way he practiced, the way he looked. I mean, people are going to say, like, you gave him that contract based on the way he practiced, but what are you going to do? Like, you can't let this kid hit free agency. He's going to be 24 when free agency starts, and maybe a Pro Bowler. I think a near Pro Bowler, if he's not a Pro Bowler. I mean, he's that good. This kid can play. And, anytime you negotiate a contract, there's a little bit of projection in there. That's what you're doing. And so if they waited, they could have easily lost him or had to pay a lot more. So he gets the money now. He gets a huge guarantee, and they get him locked up for 4 years at a reasonable price for top left tackles. So
more than reasonable. I mean, you can see from both sides. You're right. And for him, this is more money than he probably ever envisioned he'd make playing football. So he's going to take it. And for the team, if he ends up being what they think he's going to be, he's going to be underpaid in a year.
Right. That's absolutely true. And I'll tell you what, I can't say enough about Jeff Stoutland. I mean, Jordan should just buy him a car or something, because
he might. He's got the money to do that.
He might. There is no Jordan Mailata. There is no $64 million contract without Jeff Stoutland. I mean, the guy is as good as any offensive line coach I've ever seen. And not just, he took a project. The guy never played football. I still can't even fathom that, other than a few preseason snaps, really not very many, until a year ago this week, he'd never played football. He'd never played football in an organized game. So for Stoutland to take him from trying to convert a rugby player that didn't even know how to get his, he didn't even know how to put his helmet on to where he is now. It's amazing. And he's done that. He's a miracle worker. I'm in awe of Jeff Stoutland. And this team deserves so much credit for, it wasn't a huge risk. They drafted him in the 7th round, but any team could have drafted him. He was a 223rd pick, I think, something like that in the draft. The other teams didn't. The Eagles did. And
they stuck with him because there were some times where he wasn't worth a roster spot. He wasn't worth a roster spot as a rookie.
No.
Or in year 2.
Yeah. They kept him on the 53. He ended up on IR both those first 2 years, never played. And then we were worried about his back. Yeah, he was a young kid big guy with back issues, back-to-back years. So, there were concerns. He's in incredible shape now. He's strong. I'm telling you, it's good. And he's got so much upside. This was his 11th career start. So he's late in his rookie season. If he was a normal player, he's only going to get better. And there's not a lot of offensive linemen that you just say this guy's really fun to watch. Kelsey is, JP was when he was in his prime. Just he would just maul people. But Mailata is one of them. Brooks is, but he's. I think what Runyon was. Trey certainly was. The Eagles have been lucky with left tackle. They've missed here and there, but you wrote a good piece about Dillard, and people should check it out. It's kind of an interesting situation. You got a first-round pick on the bench who wasn't awful this training camp, and be interesting to see how that all plays out. But Jordan Mailata is the left tackle of the future, and it's a bright one.
Yeah. Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, the 49ers next home opener is going to be the first, full house in there. 49ers had some injuries. Do we need to mention the other quarterback lost but played all the snaps?
Which is what you want.
Yeah, exactly. You want him to go 0-16 and him play.
Although I read that the line was not looking good, so the line needs to play a little better in front of him, keep him upright. I don't even. We just have to keep people aware of the numbers, and we're going to be doing that all year. We have to, because it's a huge part of the Eagles draft next year. Yeah. All right. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button there and subscribe there as well. That's it for Reuben. I'm Dave. We'll talk to you later in the week.